Hopefully this will be my final form of navigation. I'm calling this wet sand navigation. It's interesting because you've got, sections that look a little bit darker, and those have some rock underneath, and they're harder. Those same exact sections can be really soft. Then you've got Daniel, I presume it's Daniel's tracks that I can kind of see where they get deep, know to avoid that area, and know that it's going to get soft, and then look for an alternative. And then interestingly, sometimes it's deep and he has no tracks. And so I'm thinking, the sand must change, like something that got deep overnight from all the rain last night. I'm so glad this isn't peanut butter mud. But then you have underlying rocks that's sometimes exposed. On any of the steep hills, you've got to find traction. I haven't had to walk yet, come close a couple times. And then occasionally washboard, although it really is soft. Pretty much just pound right over it. Cannot do that on regular washboard. So let's go to that. That's the next form of navigation, is washboard navigation. Either gravel or dirt, doesn't matter. You cannot hit that stuff hard. Maybe some people do if you got dual suspension. I certainly can't hit it hard, so I have to try and find, is there that one tiny line where it's smoothed out a little bit, go on either side. Sometimes it's side to side, a lot of times it's not. One side's definitely better than the other side. So you got washboard navigation. Let's see. I think there was one more. Oh yeah, there was a lot of washboard yesterday, so that's probably what I'm thinking of. Then you have, sort of your standard pick a line on rocky sections. Try and find a good line. Is this side better? That side better? Oh, right, and of course the peanut butter mud. Yeah. So peanut butter mud, you really can't tell it, especially at night. You can't tell it until it's too late. You're in it, unless you can see deep tracks up ahead, because it looks the same as everything else. So there's peanut butter mud navigation, because sometimes there is a way to get through it. You 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 look for water. If you can ride the water, you're gold. Most of the time, but it's got to be water. It's got to be puddle after puddle after puddle. A lot of times that might be a tire track you're trying to ride, but you get it wrong. It doesn't take but like 2 revolutions of the wheels won't even move. If you're really wrong in a really wrong spot. And that did happen night before last, coming across the Gila National Forest. Gila. It's Gila Monster, but I feel like people say Gila for the town and the national forest. Anyway, so that one you look for, if you can tell it's coming and it's edge to edge, you look for something on the side. Ooh. It's just like a 1% upgrade here, maybe 2% upgrade. My rear wheel is just spinning. Very little traction. 2 miles an hour, nice tailwind. Oh gosh, I hope this sticks all day. Nice tailwind, but still only going 2 miles an hour up at 2% grade on wet sand. Just can't get the traction. Yeah, and you stand up, push it, the wheel really spins. So just take it easy. Anyway, so peanut butter mud navigation, side to side. You look to see if it's possible to go around on either side. Cow pasture, and that helped last night. Continental Divide Trail. There was one section where it clearly was the Continental Divide Trail right there next to the peanut butter mud. So I couldn't ride it. It was too late. Wheels wouldn't even turn, so I had to clean it off enough to get the wheels to turn. I did that by walking through the grass sort of between the trail. I think maybe I did. I did pop on the bike for a second. Anyway. And then that was complicated over across the Great Basin because it was still windy and it was raining in the morning. Maybe it wasn't too windy. I guess it's just because it was at night. But that does lead us to the next kind, just your normal dirt road navigation with ruts and puddles and everything. When there's a 50-mile-an-hour side wind, oh my gosh, that is really hard to pick a line and stick with it. I got blown into puddles, I got blown into ruts, I got turned around and fell. I turned around and got knocked over. That was coming down that one mountain it couldn't have been into Lima. I don't know. It was right after I saw Zoe for the first time. So wherever that was, wherever our routes intersected, or not routes, but wherever our trackers intersected. So you got wind navigation, we'll call it. And even with that, like I said, it makes it tricky for the ruts and everything and picking a good line. But you can also kind of use it like a sail. You can kind of tack it like a sailboat, especially if it's a wide dirt road. And then you got a crosswind. That's what I was doing. I was like getting my big backpack right up against the wind. Ooh. This could be peanut butter. Let's go right through the middle. Yeah. Those are dirty looking tracks. Okay. Deep too, but it's not sticking. That's your sign with peanut butter mud. You look for deep ruts. You're like, oh no. And then it's kind of funny because somebody would probably look at my tracks from last night. Eventually, or the night before last, super deep. Anyway, but there were some sections where I was riding like these huge deep ruts that were just dry, hard as a rock. And you'd see a little bike track in there that was deep. I was like, oh no, Sophie Ann or one of the front runners rode this in the rain. And that's the thing about a race this long. Some people, and especially towards the middle, later stages, some people end up having better conditions than others. So that leads us to the next form of navigation. We'll call that weather navigation. You don't have a choice to do route, so you have to stick on the route, but you can play with the timing to let the storms clear out or try and get ahead of the storms, race in the storms. Done that a number of times on this ride. That paid off so well at that oil shed. We were racing. We were wondering why we weren't catching Zoe. Me and Steve were riding together. He would drop me on the hills, try and catch up. But we were mostly riding together, and we were wondering, like, man, why aren't we catching Zoe? She is fast, but she was like racing the storm even more than we were. She just flagged us down from the oil shed and said, it's open. So we waited that thing out, actually slept to let the dirt dry some, which it may have. I don't know. It could have been worse if we left right away, but it was still crazy peanut butter mud. 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning when we left. Ooh, these are deep ruts. I'm glad I have a tailwind. This is uphill too, but maybe like 0.5%. Thank you, tailwind. Got me up to 7 miles an hour instead of 3. Oh, that's the other thing too. It's not exactly navigation. We'll get back to navigation, but there were times when I had, there was a couple all day headwind days, which were awful, but I've had more tailwind than headwind without a doubt. And there was times I got cold from the tailwind because it was blowing 20 miles an hour. If you got a 40 mile an hour tailwind and you're going 5 up a hill, that can get a little chilly. Even if it is helping you up the hill. There's there is times the headwind was awful, but man, I have definitely lucked out with the wind. Yeah. And I don't get it either, because this moisture is coming up from the Gulf that's producing all the Gulf of the Pacific Gulf, whatever they call that thing. Gulf of Mexico. No, that's ours. That's ours, Gulf of Mexico. It's coming up from the Pacific Ocean. And so you'd think, oh, that means a wind blowing from the south, right? No. I think what happens is maybe it forms a low pressure down here, and that sucks all the wind from the north down. I don't know, man, but I hope it works. So lastly, so back to navigation. You have your regular navigation of like, okay, stay on the route. But you also have your classic sort of medium, which way's the route turning, which way's that storm moving, ride fast, ride slow. And then you got your micro navigation, especially on the climbs, some of the nasty climbs, and there was some. Oh, and then, yep, this did have tree navigation, not much. That lava mountain trail had a bunch of trees down. 2 of them I fell while I was there. They were off the trail though, but I saw one, heard several, and one was like a gunshot, and another was also pretty loud, and I actually watched it fall. Oh, and that happened again a different day somewhere else. I don't think I mentioned this anytime because I just forgot about it. But somewhere else, high in the woods, national forest, I heard something pretty loud. I don't know what it was, and then I started hearing the crack, 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 and a big tree fell and took out another tree. That was pretty cool. Crazy to see. I think that was at Wyoming, high in Wyoming. Oh, that's right, because it was crazy windy across the top of that plateau, and it was all bare, completely bare. And barren. Incredible 360-degree views. But I think it was in there, not the barren section. Obviously there weren't trees, but there was a couple on the edges. There was trees, and one of them fell. Anyway, other kinds of navigation. You got the hike-a-bike, regular hike-a-bike, not peanut butter mud, but right, snow. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot that. Snow navigation. Wow, mountain snow navigation. Trying to figure out how to set your feet in other people's tracks. Now, I unfortunately am one of the very few people who pushes their bike from the right side, apparently. Most people must get off and push on the left. Or one of the early people did that and everybody was stuck. All right, where's your tracks, Daniel? I don't see your tracks. It's got deep. Maybe he did what I'm doing. I'm kind of riding the deep rocks here in the middle of this slow. Oh, there's a track. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, so either the first person got off on the left, first couple people, and established bike track on the right, foot holes, post holes on the left. And then, so it had to have been Zoe. It had to have been Zoe. There was one person, and she had small feet, so I'm guessing it was Zoe, who did push her bike on the right. And so I used her tracks a bunch. Step where she stepped, hoped that I wasn't too much heavier, and post hole all the way down, which did happen. A couple times where there was nobody on the right, I tried to go, because I'm not really coordinated pushing on the other side of the bike. It's hard in the snow and things are sliding. Oh, right. That's the other thing too, is it was fun to see 2 separate tracks, a front tire track and a rear tire track. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what that is. Your front tire goes here and your rear tire will slide down into this. And that was crazy to see and experience and have it work pretty well. Never had to do anything like that. On my fat biking and frozen lakes, that's a completely different ball game. You're not hike a bike, snow tracking. And then there was the worst was the melting snow, mud puddle, 9-mile descent that took 4 hours for me. That was one of the low points. Even that craziness from 2 days ago, clearly the most difficult thing I've ever done. Going through the Gila National Forest, that was hard, and I was, honestly, I'll talk a bit more about that later, but I was having a bit of a panic attack towards the beginning of that, knowing how far I had to go. Anyway, and I do not get panic attacks, but I was like, my heart, I'm like, starting to feel like stuffy and like, oh my goodness. Anyway, because, okay, but back to the navigation. Yeah, I think the worst part of the race for me was that, I don't know why, I was just so disappointed. Maybe because it felt so falute. Because I did meet the New Zealanders the morning after I was so cold and freezing and sleeping on the porch at the, waiting for the restaurant to open. The guy was not happy, although he was super cool in the end, but he was not happy that I slept on his porch. Which, to be fair, I get it, but I needed that store. I needed the coffee. I needed the warmth. And anywhere else to go. So, anyway, he was super cool. I talked to him and his wife for a while after the New Zealanders left. And then I caught up to them. But anyway, they taught me the word falute, pointless, which means pointless. I think it's Maori, but it means pointless. And maybe that was that thing. I mean, that's part of it. You have this beautiful U.S. highway paved descent, 9 miles down. Seriously, would take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. 15 minutes, yeah, if you're going 40 miles an hour, 15 minutes. Instead, it took me 4 hours. 4 hours to basically walk, slide through all the snow and mud and puddles. People behind me said they really didn't have problems, so I guess it's because I was doing it at night and I was just picking really bad lines. Anyway, I think that's all the navigation, so I'm going to stop this video and start another one about all the wildlife I've seen.